Let's take a look at how this thing comes directly from FN. Here's the box. We open the box and yikes, that is some bright blue. This particular pistol was packed by number 3. So hey, give it up for number 3. Good job. So I specifically ordered my copy of the FNS-9 exactly the way you see it here. I wanted the matte silver stainless steel slide, even though the slide is always stainless steel, even if it's been coated with a black finish. But I like the look of the two-tone. I like the stainless steel slide, and more importantly, I ordered it without a manual safety. I did not want the optional manual safety on my pistol. And it comes with 3 magazines, 3 17-round magazines. So in a day when a lot of folks are giving you 1 or 2, they're giving you 3, which is great. I think that's the right amount. The pistol also comes with an optional backstrap that you can change out, and I very well may do that because the one that's on the pistol is arched, and the one that's provided as a alternate is flat, and I think I'm probably going to wind up liking the flat one better. But I may see. I may try it both ways. I may shoot it with the arched one first, or I may change it before I take it to the range. I'm not sure. Changing it is pretty easy, I understand. You just use a little pin to release the tension on the one, slide it out, slide the new one in. So that shouldn't be any issue. Some of the nice things about this pistol in terms of specifications, the way they made it, is that first and foremost, it is an FNH. You know, it's an FN pistol. FN has been around since the 1880s. It was home away from home for one John Moses Browning. It still owns the subsidiary that bears his name. The gun weighs empty just a hair over 25 ounces. The pistol has a 4-inch barrel. The barrel is cold hammer forged stainless steel. Feed ramp is very well polished in this gun. Chamber looks to be nicely, I'm not going to say throated, but nicely beveled. So this gun should function really well in terms of feeding. It is fully ambidextrous. All models of the FNS-9 are fully ambidextrous. You have magazine release on both sides, and not just a reversible one, but an existing functional. And you have the slide stop release on both sides. The trigger is also ambidextrous. You can pull the trigger with your left finger or with your right finger. The sights on this gun are not night sights. Night sights are an available option. This is just the 3-dot combat configuration. It is a good sight picture. I haven't shot it yet, so I'll really get a better idea how much I like the sight picture when I start shooting the gun, but it looks like a good sight picture. Overall length of the gun is 7¼ inches, but you know, if you take off a 1/2 inch worth of beaver tail here and you know, 1/4 inch worth of muzzle up front, you've probably got about 6½ inches of sight radius. Somewhere between 6¼ and 6½, I would guess, of sight radius, which is respectable for a pistol this size. One of the first things I noticed that really impressed me when I took the gun out of the box and held it for the first time was this very aggressive texturing or stippling on the frame. It's a little bit like a Gen 4 Glock with the, you know, sort of flat top pyramid here on the side panels and even on the back strap, but on the front strap here, what they've done is they've just got horizontal lines that are raised on the polymer, but they do an incredibly good job of giving your fingers a excellent grip. I mean, I would equate this to like a 1911 with really good checkering on the front strap. That's how it feels. The magwell on this pistol is really pretty good for a polymer pistol. They give you a pretty nice magwell. You can see that when you insert the magazine, you've got a lot of play there. You've got a lot of extra space to feed that magazine in. So that really should help with fast reloads. So if you got the long slide version of this gun and wanted to use it as a match gun, that really could help you. Or if it's a duty gun, of course, that really could help. The magazines themselves are of very good quality. They are box style, obviously. Looks like a single weld up the back. They're pretty well polished, actually. They polished their magazines, and it's got a really nice base plate on it. Double stack configuration, 17 round capacity, which is what adds to the height of the gun. You know, the only thing that really kind of changes it from, say, the Glock 19 is going to be the height. This gun is definitely taller. I don't have a measurement on that right now. Let's do that. Get my handy dandy little ruler and see. It is about, I'm going from the top of the sight all the way to the bottom of the, I'm not going to go to the bottom of the mag, but I'll go to the bottom of the back strap, and we're looking at 5.5 inches. So 5.5 inches tall is a little tall for a pistol of this size, but again, that's what you get with 17 round magazine. One of the other things that I noticed and like is the takedown lever on this gun is very flat, very minimal, and low profile. So unlike some, like the Sig Sauer P320 that I've just recently been paying a lot of attention to, has this huge takedown lever in the same spot, but it sticks out a lot more, and I don't think that's necessary. This one, very flat, almost flush to the polymer frame, so that keeps the gun as thin as possible. The slide stop controls are very Glock-like, extremely so, and they're also very, very close to the pistol, so they don't add much in terms of width. So even with an ambidextrous setup, you're not sacrificing any extra thickness to the pistol. One thing I was talking about the sights a minute ago, the one thing I did notice is that there was a lot of grease, black grease around both sights, both front and rear, and I suppose they may do that when they drift them into place at the factory just to keep from marring the finish, which is great. But that made me look at them, and when I looked at them, I noticed that the rear sight definitely looks like it's much further to the right than center, and oddly enough, the front sight looks like it's a tiny bit to the left. So it looks like they either got them in there kind of funky or did some adjustment when they were test firing the gun. So I don't know. I'm going to be very curious to see where this thing hits with the sights where they are. And probably the last thing to talk about before shooting the gun is the trigger. They have a trigger safety system in the FNS that is very similar to others in terms of there's a little catch right up here that has to be moved before that trigger can travel rearward. So now that type of design inherently gives you a little bit of squishy feel to the trigger because you're moving, if you can see, maybe I'll do a close-up of this later, but if you can see that, I'm moving the bottom part of the trigger, but I'm not moving the actual mechanical trigger yet. I'm just moving that bar out of the way. And not till there. So there's, maybe as much as 1/8 of an inch. And again, very similar to an M&P, that type of feel. So there's a little squishy feeling because you start to move that bottom part of the trigger before you start to move the rest of it. It makes it feel different. But it is a decent trigger. They rate it at between, I think, I want to say 5.5 or 6 to 7.5 pounds. Feels good though. The pistol has just a genuinely good ergonomic feel. It feels very natural. This beaver tail is nice. It's got a low bore axis. Not quite Glock low, but almost like maybe M&P. We have 1913 Picatinny rail on the front, so if you need to hang a light or laser or something like that off the front, you've got a fairly generous amount, looks like about 1.5 inches of space. You do have also a grip surface on the front of the trigger guard if you prefer that sort of a grip. The guide rod is steel. The spring is, I believe, a flat spring design, but hey, let's take a look. So actually, to take this pistol down is pretty simple. You do what I just did. You lock the slide back, and then you rotate the takedown lever, pull the trigger, and then pull the slide off. Now how's that for a beautiful looking slide? So there's our guide rod and recoil spring assembly. It is, again, a steel guide rod, and it is a flat spring. Beautiful millwork in this slide. I did break it down already, and make sure it was good and clean, and I've re-lubricated the entire pistol, which I do before I shoot them. But I noticed then that the millwork and the quality is just extremely good in this pistol. Look how much front rail you have. I mean, a lot of polymer pistols have, about the width of my little pinky fingernail there in terms of rails. And even on the back, I mean, you've got a good inch there and probably 1.25 inches up here. So the downside might be that, yeah, that's more friction surface, but if it's properly lubricated, it's a lot more guiding surface. So you would think that having more rail here is going to give you a smoother and steady, more stable cycling. So there could be some benefit there in terms of just the feel of it, but also possibly the accuracy. Who knows? Okay, put it back together. Put it back to slide stop. Rotate the takedown lever back, and voila. Function check. We're good to go. And speaking of being good to go, let's go and shoot this thing. Alright, so here we are at the range with the FNS-9. Going to do the first 100. So far has not been fired. Going to start out with some Herters, 115 grain ball ammo. Good stuff. To me, this is just good day in and day out type ammo. Then I'm going to probably move on next to Freedom Munitions, something else I like to break in a gun with. And we may have some bonus rounds with some PMC bronze. I also have some steel case. But we're going to see where we go. But we're going to do at least 100 rounds. I did wind up, before I brought it out here, I did wind up replacing the arched back strap with the straight back strap. That just feels better to me. It seems to bring my grip in just a little bit closer, which is nice. It also just feels a little more natural for me. I prefer the straight back strap to that swell that was sort of hitting me in more of the bottom of the palm. So it didn't seem to do any good as far as raising my shooting angle, but I think I like the straight one better. So we'll see. I can always change it back if I want. It's nice that it comes with 3 magazines. 17 rounds each. So you really can go through a box of ammo pretty quick with all 3 of these. So I was the SO yesterday in a IDPA match, and one of the guys in my squad just happened to be shooting his brand new FNS-9 long slide. I kind of enjoyed watching him. It really was I think it was his first time shooting it too, so it did well. He did well with it. I enjoyed watching, close up, watching him shoot that gun. It's a nice looking gun, and definitely looked like a viable contender for the stock pistol competition market. Might be something to consider down the road. Last round is a little snug, but not too bad. And there is the first box of 50. All right, so let me go down to about probably about the 8-yard line or so, and put a camera on a target let's start shooting this thing. Very first shots of the first 100 rounds through the FNS-9. All right, that was the first 16. Getting used to it a little bit. Working on getting used to that trigger. Every trigger has a different feel. Every gun has a different trigger. Feels pretty good. It's a little longer pull than I was first anticipating. So the first couple shots took a while till you get used to it. I like the reset. I'm holding just at the bottom of the orange dot. I've completely lost count. All right, we're starting to, I think we're starting to group in a little. Getting a little used to it. Trigger is, like I said, it's a little heavy. Feels a little tight. Okay, there's the first 50. FNS-9, 4-inch. Freedom Munitions, 115 grain ball. Now I'm using the same aim point, but my hits are more centered than they were with the herders. Different guns like different ammo. This gun seems to really like the Freedom Munitions so far of the two. That checkering on the back strap is definitely aggressive and grippy. Look at that. I may, at a future time, I may go back to that rounded back strap because this one feels almost too square. So there's the first 100 rounds through the FNS-9. Perfection as far as no failures, no malfunctions of any kind. Pretty much what I would expect. I would have been surprised if this gun had had any problems other than, you know, something very obvious related to ammunition. But accuracy seems to be very good with this 4-inch pistol at 8 yards, which is where I was shooting offhand. You can see the target. It definitely seems to prefer the Freedom munitions today as opposed to the Herters. I'm probably going to put some bonus rounds through this thing. I think I'm not, I don't feel quite finished. I think there's still some things I want to do with it. I'm starting to get used to the trigger. It's a good trigger. It's a little heavy, and it's got a different feeling stroke than a lot of triggers that I'm used to, but it's pretty crisp and clean at the brake. It's got a hard brake. And then the reset is really good. I do like the reset on it. It seemed very intuitive, and I didn't have to feel around for where that was and get used to it. It just seemed real natural, that reset. And it's a pretty short one too, so I like that about it a lot. So, after the first 100, I think we got a winner here. I think we're going to see a lot more hundreds through this one. What do you think, buddy? Hey, what do you think, buddy? You think we're going to shoot this gun some more? All right, let's do it. Let's do it. Okay, so back inside where it's warmer and quieter. A few wrap-up comments. Post-shooting, I put about 165 rounds or so through this on its first outing to the range. Could have definitely put a lot more. This is a fun gun to shoot. This thing shoots really nice. It's extremely accurate. I was very pleased with how accurate it is. Has a great sight picture. You know, I talked about the 3-dot sights, but if you can see here, hard to say, but the front dot is larger, about twice as large as the 2 rear dots. And that front post fills the rear notch really nicely. Just a little bit of wiggle room, but not a whole lot of airspace, which is the way I prefer it. I found it real easy to get this gun on target and hold it right where I needed it. So these are not night sights. They're just the 3-dot combat sights, but a very good set of sights. I also had mentioned that the rear sight had been drifted fairly obviously, and the front sight looked like it had been drifted a little bit too. Well, if somebody did that at the factory, kudos to whoever did that, because this thing was dead on. I mean, point of aim was point of impact. So good job, guys. And if you actually test fired this thing and adjust the sights, you zeroed it in perfectly. Another thing I noticed after kind of sort of sitting back and taking a look at it is the trigger guard on this gun is really large. It's larger than it seems at first. You know, I set it up next to some other guns, and I'll do this maybe later in other comparisons, but it's about the biggest one of this size pistol that I have. You know, it's much bigger than a Glock trigger guard. It's even bigger than a Walther or even the VP9. So if you're wearing a glove, you know, if you have a gloved hand, even a fairly thick padded glove or something like that in the dead of winter, you're going to be able to operate this pistol. It's also got a nice undercut, so you're able to get your grip good and high up underneath the trigger guard. The texture on this grip is very aggressive. I had mentioned that already, but after shooting it, and that's really where you really get the realistic feel for the ergonomics of a pistol, is when you're shooting it. One of the things I really do like, though, was the way they textured the front strap. It's just horizontal lines, and they're very thin, but they're perfectly done. It provides an incredibly good grip. I would compare this to the best checkering on a 1911 as far as practical purpose and how well it holds your fingers in place. I do like that a whole lot. The poly frame is very good. I mean, overall, I'll say it again, and I'll probably keep saying it. The fit and finish is extremely top shelf on this gun. I've not seen any that are better. After the first 100, my first thoughts on this gun, it is top quality, great shooter, worth absolutely every penny. More bonus testing. Tull ammo, steel cased. FNS-9. Get you some of this.